They talk about human rights violation at the same time, and anti-communism, anti-socialism. At the same time, they are the biggest borrowers of Chinese wealth. They think the Africans are stupid, but because China, the advent of China, mainland China in Africa, gives the Africans the latitude to choose who they want to. This is a threat to their hegemony, and so anything to discredit mainland China, they will do so. And then go back to mainland China and say, oh, we want this and that and that. If you understand what I mean. So, we have a choice. It's not only the West that exists. You have the East also. You have Northeast, you have the Gulf states, Asia, you have Asia, emerging powers, you have the BRICS as well. So we have a choice. But what is more important is to work with whoever. Also from the way there are people with a conscience. I'm not saying that all the rest are vampires. There are people that have a conscience and they have always been standing up for African interests, but there are very few. But let us take control of our countries, our resources, and then from there we will decide who we want to work with. It's like you having a herd of cattle. You have only one buyer in the village who is always fixing the price, take it or leave it. And then all of a sudden you realize that there are 5 others, not in the village but outside, who are saying, oh, I'll come and negotiate the price with you. Okay, you say, oh, $10. I said, no. Why don't you reduce? I say, oh, no, but $10. I think that's the minimum I can accept. I say, okay. Because all the time they say, oh, but you're getting only $5. Now you're getting $10. Isn't that an improvement on you? Now, if the butcher is wealthier than the owner of the herd of cattle where he's buying the cattle from, then something is wrong. If you understand what I mean. When you look at other resources, agriculture for example, you look at cocoa or coffee. The companies that buy coffee from Africa, each of them is wealthier than all the African coffee producing countries put together. And they are buying their coffee and cocoa beans from Africa. And how much would it take you to, what does it take you to turn a bean into a coffee or whatever? It's just roasting. Anything else is just fake. So, I spend all the year working on the farm, harvest it, wash it, dry it. But the world market is so powerful that they will tell you Africa, the fixed prices for Africa's raw materials, take it or leave it. Do you understand what I mean? Yes. Now, for example, they buy maybe, you'll be lucky for them to buy a kilo of coffee at $1. Well, let's say, yeah, $1. Now, a kilo is 1,000 grams. You go to the supermarket after, you are the cocoa farmer, you want to drink coffee. You buy this 10 grams of coffee for $1. There's only one difference, that is they roasted it, process it into you to drink. Look at the difference. Look at the disparity. And they say, oh yes, Gambia, if you are producing coffee, because this country is accepting it, you also have to sell your coffee at 5%. And that is why buyers of African raw materials are wealthier than African producers of raw materials. And the status quo doesn't seem to change because nobody is challenging them. We take it for a fact that, oh, Gambia accepted this, so I may as well accept it. I have seen a country where there are mineral resources. They have given an exploration license. And those are the countries where their leaders would never be.
50 years is a long time.
Their leaders will never be criticized. But no matter what they do, they are not corrupt, they are the Democrats, despite the fact that people are starving and dying in boats. These are the Democrats, these are the leaders of Africa. So, my dear, the solution to this is, the problem is with the African leaders, and so it should also be the solution. Let us work together. Africa should be united. You speak with one voice, the same way the European colonialists are speaking with one voice. If you are denied a visa today in one to enter one former colonial vampire, you will not go anywhere else. And today, every African is subject to fingerprinting, as if all Africans are criminals. Now, who gave them the visa in the first place to come to Africa? The world is 3 days. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Now, yesterday, they were coming to Africa, and we were made to believe, to clap for them, that, yes, we are part of them. They never required a visa. Today, we require a visa. Not only a visa, but also to buy an air ticket, you pay insurance. At the same time, your fingerprints are taken out as if you are a criminal. You know, Europeans are not required, even if they are not part of the European Union, they are not required to be fingerprinted.
So do you reckon with all the Chinese coming into Africa, the whole buzz of Africa rising, what you have just discussed today, this is the right time that Africa should really stand on its 2 feet? And if so, how do we as Africans tell our story of this positivity to counter the backlash that it always receives? Specifically, for example, in your case, there's so many positive things that come out of the Gambia. And I think this is probably where my brother, the broadcasting stations, the television, the newspapers need to be telling that story, that me who is living in London, I should know about these things. But luckily I'm in the media, so at least I have an idea of what happens, the positive stories of the Gambia. But my question is, how do we... How are you going to manage to counter the backlash that comes with all this that always kind of holds us back, so that this story of growth is not there? Africa Rising, yes, you hear it when it's on CNN, it becomes news story. You've made an announcement in a way that I look at it differently, today. But if you go on the BBC, Reuters, the question of the Gambia has withdrawn from the Commonwealth, to them it's a negative story. So how do we as Africans project this Africa Rising story to counter this persistent backlash? They're going to talk about the human rights we've talked about. That's what they'll pick on. They'll talk about, the physical, the big taboo subject of gay rights in the Gambia. It's all those things. How do we counter? How can you counter that? Because it's very big that the story doesn't get lost in the negativity that comes from the Western media.
Very simply, I believe in God. I put my faith in the Almighty Allah. And as long as I know that what I'm doing is right, I fear nobody. I'm used to this negativity from 1994 to date. But would that make me back down from my stand to defend Africa, to defend our interests, and to defend our independence? I will never back down. You see, there is a proverb in our local parlance that your enemy, even if you dance in the water, he's going to complain that you're raising a lot of dust and making him cough. Do you understand? So, when you listen to the tone of the BBC, they say we didn't tell anybody. Do you have to tell anybody? So we should have taken permission from somebody, inform him ahead of time, and he will advise us whether we should do it or not. That is what hurts them most. Do you understand? And it's not only the Gambia. Every African government or leader is so... We are not independent. We are just colonies, and we must take permission from the master before we do anything else. And so it happens that, there's this Jama who doesn't want to be anybody's servant. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Now, the idea of, the Gambia is benefiting from the Commonwealth, this and that and that. Let them tell us how much we've benefited.